piece of an old can. But you gotta dig everything. If you don't dig everything, you're gonna miss the good stuff. My wife, years ago, bought me a metal detector, and she paid way too much money for it. It just wasn't any good. I was downtown in Frazee at the local meat market, and a guy had a metal detector for sale. I brought it home, and I went out in my yard. Every time it got over the ground, it made a noise. So I took another step and made a noise. I got so angry. I drove all the way to Fargo, to Treasure Shores, and I got the very best that he had. I come back, went out in the yard, same place, and I got over the ground, it made a noise. What it was is my line for my propane tank going into my furnace. The other one was just fine. But it worked out really good. I had the top of the line detector, so I started out right away finding some good stuff, and it just kind of escalated from there. We spend our summers in Frazee and our winters down in Melbourne Beach, Florida, on the Treasure Coast, and I detect down there virtually every day. In Minnesota, I detect the Otter Tail River. And then I've got this Red River Ox Cart trading post. I go out there on occasion. Now I just kind of got into a bunch of cellar holes. The first thing you do is you're going to figure where was the most activity. And it takes a while to figure that out. Between the house and shed for the animals, there's got to be a lot of activity back and forth there. So that's the first place that I detected. I went over it, I think, 3 different times. And the third time that I went over it, that's when I found those 3 nickels. This is a V nickel. It's dated 1893. This one is dated 1902. And then I got a buffalo nickel, and that one is dated 1913. You could go to a coin shop and buy these for probably about 20 or 30 bucks. Yet it made my whole day just finding them. Detecting in Florida, I'm detecting the beach. The key is being able to read the beach. And if we get a wind coming out of the north, it'll actually cut the beach. Or if the wind is coming in from the east, they have what's called riptides. And these riptides will actually kind of burrow right into the shore, and they go out, and it's taking stuff out with them. And by detecting those areas, you get down to where the old stuff is. The beach is very highly mineralized, so a lot of detectors will not work on the beach. You have to have a detector, what we call multi-frequency, so it can move back and forth in the frequency chain and not false out. And you'll want to use a great big coil. Now, it's just the opposite when you're hunting in yards or cellar holes and stuff like that. You want to use a smaller coil, and you want to use a detector that you can turn the frequency up to try to get the depth. Now, this could be a coin. This could be a silver coin. I've done real well. I've been real fortunate. Up here, I found many, many rings. In Florida, I'm looking for Spanish treasure. Spanish coins, the reals, and the gold coins are called escudos. And artifacts. I get excited about the littlest things, I really do. I was just showing this can. Apparently they didn't have can openers in them days. This was opened with a knife, and I have no idea what was in it, but it would be kind of interesting to see what they had. My very favorite thing is my first Spanish coin. It's a 1701 Spanish 2 real. A couple of years ago, I was really lucky, and I found probably the oldest coin ever found on the Treasure Coast. If you look on the front here, it'll have an M, meaning it was minted in Mexico. G, that's for the assayer. And we were able to date this coin by the assayer. He only worked from 1544 to 1548. They believe this is probably the oldest coin ever found on the Treasure Coast. If not the oldest, it's one of the oldest. Part of the fun is just doing the history, trying to look up this stuff. I have an email list that I send out of my adventures, and I try to tell the story. People come back and they really appreciate knowing the history, the story of it. Everybody was after me, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book? So I did. Detecting the Treasure Coast, this is kind of a how-to. It gives tips to the beginners. Then, of course, I showed pictures of all the stuff I found. And it come out really well. So I wrote the second one, Detecting the Otter Tail, which is a whole different ballgame. I'm in the water and wading in the river. So I was able to give a lot of tips on detecting in the river. And that went real well also, so I wrote the third one, and I'm now working on the fourth one. When I'm treasure hunting, I don't have a care in the world. I can't believe how excited I get when a gold ring pops out. And a Spanish coin, When I find one of those riels, I want to show somebody. A couple of guys say in my books that I wrote too much. I give too many tips and that. And really, I want people to enjoy what I'm enjoying. There's a lot of treasure stories that are never going to be told. The guys find some real treasure. They didn't want to tell anybody. They're afraid the government's going to come in and take it or somebody's going to steal it. And I just don't feel that way at all. It wouldn't mean anything to me if it was sitting in a safety deposit box. I want people to be able to share the things that I do and enjoy the things that I do. It's just a wonderful, wonderful hobby. And since I started metal detecting, I've been able to go on archaeology digs. I've been interviewed and that stuff. And I've written 3 books. And that's kind of a big deal for an old guy like myself. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. I'm getting pretty well known out there.
Funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people of Minnesota on November 4, 2008. And by the members of Prairie Public.